we giving away? We're giving away this bad boy.
Oh, I forgot.
The Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. How's everybody doing? It is Friday, which means you officially made it through the week. We made it through the week. It's been a long week. It is exhausting, but we're excited because tonight, two things. We're giving away this mug. Woo! But more importantly, we're talking to Vantiki. And Vantiki is someone you've probably heard a little bit about. I think he's come up in every other single stream that we've done this week, somehow in the conversation with the other artists. So people love Vantiki, and we're excited to see everybody joining in. Towards the end of the stream is when we're going to give away the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man Tiki mug, inspired by Ghostbusters, released by Mondo, produced by Tiki Farm, and a whole bunch of artists worked on it.
Tiki just sent a request.
Ooh, he sent a request.
Yeah, he's eager.
Where is it?
You just scroll by it. Maybe you need better glasses.
I think bring him in. Let's bring in the man. Vantiki.
Pretty crazy question.
Hey!
There he is. How's it going?
Great, great. I hope you can hear me.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah, yep.
Life is good.
Woo! I'm going to turn the brightness.
How's it going, dude?
Oh, good. You know, well, I mean, it's as good as, you know, these days will allow. Yeah.
I gotta say, earlier I was not doing so good because earlier I watched your latest Tiki Technical Tuesday video.
Oh.
And you stressed me out.
That was a super stressful one, I gotta admit. Yeah.
For anyone that saw the first episode and then saw the second episode, I'm like, oh my God, how's this gonna work?
People always ask, like, why don't you do hand building anymore? And I should just have them watch that because it's like,
there you go.
It's like making a little baby and then putting it in an oven and it might explode. Like, it's just so stressful. Yeah.
It's so much work. Have you, I mean, obviously it's not released in Tiki Technical Tuesday yet. Have you fired it yet?
It's funny you ask. So it's right there I just did a bisque fire on it. I started it yesterday and it's still cooling. You can take a look.
Oh man, are you gonna do that on the stream?
I think the temperature, oh, okay. So yeah, so it's still at, it's at 282 degrees. I can't open this until it's at 200.
Yeah.
So I've been waiting all day. When I woke up this morning, it was at 1,000 degrees, and now it's at 282. It's like, grr. This is seriously the worst thing about ceramics for me is this forced patience. It's torturous. Now, I do have these peepholes on here, and I have peeped into the kiln, and I've seen the nose. Like, the nose is still there. The nose didn't blow off, at least at one side. So I know there's still a shape in there, but I mean, for all I know, the arms have both turned to dust. I don't know, but yeah.
It's so big, I can't imagine you can see much.
Yeah, but
right now it's kind of like Schrodinger's cat, right?
It is, yeah. It could either be great or horrible, or both.
There's some comfort in that.
Yeah.
There's some solace right now. Until you open it, it's not a disaster.
Yeah, and of course, this is only one of the two firings it's got to go through. After this, it has to go through the glaze firing.
Yep.
But this is the most dangerous, I think, of the firings. Knock on wood.
For anyone that hasn't seen the latest Tiki Technical Tuesday, Vantiki's working on a fountain.
Yes.
Which is pretty cool. And it's Tiki inspired, so definitely check those videos out.
Please do, and subscribe.
And subscribe. I have to ask, was it inspired by the show that we've already talked about? The Great Pottery Throwdown.
Oh, yes. Sorry, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, totally. Oh, yeah. So the Pottery Throwdown, if no one has seen this, it's a British TV show, very much like the Great Pottery baking show. What's it called? It's the Great Bake Off.
And now I'm drawing a blank. I know. Tumbled through that. Oh.
But
yeah, it's Paul Hollywood hosts it. It's the Great British Bake Off.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's just like the Great British Bake Off, but it's for pottery. So they've had 3 seasons, and I first heard about this show before, like the year that we moved here. So 4 years ago, I watched season 1. They had it on TV back when we were living in Hawaii, and it just was like, oh my God, this is the best show. And then we kind of tried to watch season 2 on YouTube. Like, you know how when they post shows on YouTube, but it's illegal So they like resize it or they squish it small.
Yep.
So it was just so painful to watch it like squished. I'm like, I can't do it. So anyways, HBO Max, if you have HBO Max, everybody, the Great Pottery Throwdown is on there 3 seasons.
Have you started season 3 yet or no?
I just finished season 3 last night. We finished it.
We still haven't started.
I want to ask when the Tiki toilet is coming. That's what I want to ask.
Okay, the toilet project, I'm going to tell you, it gets me upset. That project upsets me.
Why?
Because it's technically impossible for them to do what they're doing and have it work. You cannot make something that big and heavy out of clay and fire it the next day and expect it to not explode. Like the fountain that's in there that I just fired, that's been sitting there for 2 weeks. I let that dry. And I did it slowly. The first week I dried it under a bag with little holes poked in it. So the first week it was an extremely slow dry because you want all that moisture to slowly and evenly migrate out throughout the whole thing. Thin parts will dry faster than thicker parts, which you'll notice in the show, like all the toilets break at the joins or anything like that, because there's a side to it. There's that other, okay, so have you ever watched Face Off? Do you remember that TV show Face Off?
It was a while ago on Sci-Fi. I watched it.
Yeah. So that was a makeup effects show. So I used to be a makeup effects artist. And that's another show that I had a love and hate relationship with because a lot of those challenges were also chemically and physically impossible for them to succeed in the time frames that they gave them. So I just felt it was unfair. So I feel the toilet is an unfair challenge. And Denise will tell you that all I do is yell at the TV for the entire episode. Just like, it's not possible.
So I didn't know that you had seen it. We watched it. I think we just finished season 2 when you mentioned it on Instagram story or something. And the whole time I'm watching it, I'm like, don't you guys watch Tiki Technical Tuesday? You would know not to do that.
Well, it's funny. We've been watching because they popped up on HBO Max. We're like, yeah. And my parents live, they're my neighbors, and they had been to the garden thing. And so there's a lot of factors going into the fountain project. One, it's like there's like an arms race, a fountain arms race going on between my brother, who's my neighbor, and my parents, who are my neighbor. Like my brother's got this super, super incredible fountain setup going on. Like it's like a whole pond, and he has like, it looks like, I expect a Disney princess to be sitting there and birds on her shoulder because like deer are sipping out of it and fish are jumping. It's ridiculous. And then my parents just put one up there and they have tons of birds. And all I've got is a bird feeder here. So I'm like, we gotta do something.
Yes.
So that was step 1. And then step 2, my dad was at the garden center around here and they had like this Moai bird feeder, or I mean, like a bird bath. Like there's a Moai with a bird bath on its head. And it was, it's like, it was okay. It was okay. But it was also like $300. I'm like, what? And it was not, I was just like, And so my parents are like super DIY people. They pretty much built their own house. It was like every weekend of my childhood was building something with my parents. My dad's mantra is you can build a better one. That's what he always says. Okay. So I was like, all right, I'm taking you up on it. And so Denise we were watching the Pottery Throwdown and she's like, why don't you just make a fountain? And then I kind of had like anxiety about it. Like, well, I don't know. What if it freezes? I've never made a fountain on the mainland, but I think it's going to be fine. So anyway, that's kind of where that came from.
Well, we're all along the road for you because it's not like you do it and then you post the Tiki videos. Like, if it breaks, we're going to be as heartbroken as you are.
Oh, I will be devastated. And I am not lying. I have shed tears over opening kilns and seeing just rubble on the ground. It's the worst feeling ever.
That's so brutal.
I once was teaching, when I first moved back to Hawaii, I was teaching middle school ceramics and I had never done ceramics. I had just started making tiki mugs like a month before or something like that. Okay. That was like my first dip back into ceramics since 4th grade. So I knew nothing. And all of a sudden I've got like this giant kiln I'm supposed to run and all these students. So it is filled to the gills with student artwork. And one of my students basically made like a clay hand grenade. It was just a massive, giant clay air bubble that, and I asked him a million times, like, did you put holes in this? He's like, oh yeah, there's holes in the door, there's holes in it. It just, and it was on the bottom. And kilns have shelves, like you stack them. So there's like and then you put these like risers and you put a bunch of stuff and you put another shelf and a bunch of stuff and another shelf. Basically his blew up in the bottom so severely, it knocked the shelves out. And it just like, it was carnage. And so I had a complete nervous breakdown that morning at school. Like, how am I going to tell all these kids that their work is completely destroyed? They've spent so much time on this. What am I going to do? And I'm like, tears in my eyes. And the other teacher's like, it's going to be okay. Don't worry about it. It'll be okay. So I'm like, so finally I go in. I'm like, class, just want to let you know that we lost some of your work. And like, whatever. And they didn't even care. Didn't care. I'm like, oh, all right. That's right. This isn't their livelihood. They're not totally invested in this. So
you get an A and you get an A.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Everybody was happy.
But yeah. So anyway, I never, yeah. Actually, the nice thing that happened was later that then a bee actually made like the next week I went into fire stuff, and a beehive had been built inside of the kiln. Like our kiln was outside, like in a lean-to, and I guess over the weekend, queen bee flew in there, and all of a sudden it was like covered with 10,000 bees. And they tried to make a hive in it. So we got this bee guy to come out and take all the bees out, but they had coated, it was just basically the kiln was ruined. So I didn't have to use ceramics for that year, which was great.
What did you do?
Oh, we did all the other printmaking and drawing and all the other fun art stuff that I knew how to do at the time. So yeah.
There were, to go back to the Great Pottery Throwdown for a second, there were two things on there that when I was watching it, I was like, I wonder if Vantiki's ever done this. Just so how they went. And it's the bone china and the Raku firing. Have you done either of those?
So I have done, I've done both the Raku and pit firing, and I've never done bone china. So bone china it's a super specific type of clay that it actually has bone in it. So bone china was made as so there's two types of kind of translucent clay, like clays that you can see through that light will pass through. One is actual porcelain, and then two is bone china, which it's like a faux porcelain, if you will. I have never used bone china. It is supposedly a nightmare to work with. Porcelain in itself is a nightmare to work with. I've used porcelain a lot, but I've never had bone china. I've never been in a studio that has it.
Okay. So
yeah, sorry.
You said pit firing, though.
Pit firing. So pit firing is fun. Okay, I'm probably gonna piss off a lot of clay people out there. I apologize, clay people. I'm not really a potter. I don't, I never went to school for pottery, but I always feel that Raku and pit firing is kind of like the Evel Knievel show off pottery. It's just like, yeah, check it out, fire. It's like, it looks super cool. But for me, I think it's the thing that kills me about it is none of that is food safe. You can never use any of that for food. So even in the show, they're making teacups and stuff like that. Technically, that's a no-no. That you will not get food safe certification on any of those ceramics because the surfaces are super porous.
Yeah.
And a ton of those things that they were throwing into that pit fire are so toxic that that I don't even allow them on the property here, like cadmium and stuff like that. I'm like, no. So yeah, so that's, but the results can be
on horsehair,
yeah,
dead leaves, that'll be good.
Like when we lived in Hawaii, they had they would do a Raku weekend at there was this Bellows Air Force Base. It's a beautiful seaside Air Force Base in the middle of Waimanalo. It's a coastal town on Oahu, and it's actually so everyone talks about Pearl Harbor getting bombed. Bellows was also attacked at the morning of Pearl Harbor, but they do a Raku weekend every year, the Hawaii Potters Guild, and I would usually ride my bike to the thing to see it every weekend, and like 3 miles out I could smell like I must be getting close, like my nose is burning. So,
let me put some cocktail in that and take a swig.
But it's cool. And I also so some potters love the mystery of the kiln, like, oh, what are the kiln gods gonna give me? I hate that. I want to know what is inside of that kiln, and it kills me if it's not what I see in my head. Like, it's got to the point now where Denise will open the kilns now because I can't even open the kilns. Like, if it's not right, I'll just be like, oh, and then the day is ruined. So she'll open the kiln and be like, it may be different than what you think, but it looks good. It looks good. It's good. So
it's gonna be okay. It's gonna be.
But but Raku is like the ultimate. Like, you'll spend forever throwing a pot, and it's like, if you fall in love with that pot, there's like maybe a 10% chance the Raku will look cool. Like, maybe. I'm like, why take that gamble? So, but when people are really good at it, they can do some unbelievable things. But yeah, it just didn't grab me. It didn't grab me.
It is a cool show.
Oh, I love that show.
So check it out. For anyone watching, check it out.
Yeah, it's super addictive. I absolutely love it. I mean, so I love that show. Like, a lot of the BBC shows, I think, are very different than American.
They're so calm.
they're calm and they're supportive.
Yes.
And it's a supportive, it's not a competitive environment, it's a very supportive environment. And so as a creator, I love seeing people get together and make things and all kind of make stuff together and enjoy making stuff together. So yeah, that's why I love that show. And even the British Bake Off, I love it for that too. They're very supportive. Although that show also stresses me out.
Well, let's face it, they're all designed to stress you out a little bit.
Yeah.
But you're guilty of the same thing, Mr.
Yeah.
Tiki Technical.
That one was, I was trying to be so calm on camera for that one, but I'm like, even like watching the playback, I'm like, oh God, I really, it was so, and I like threw like 3 or 4 takes away every time. Like, I do not look happy in this take. Like, I got to do this again. Yeah.
You're making a fountain. It's like a water, you call it the, what is it?
The water bearer.
The water bearer, yeah.
And that's a little shout out to Holly Pele. So when you go to Holly Pele, if you drink every drink on the menu, you become a member of the water bearers.
Okay.
And those are the people who've drunk the fire bearers are the people who've drunk every rum on their menu, which takes a lot longer. And it's more expensive. So,
and that's your home bar, right?
well, home-ish. I mean, it's a couple 100 miles away, but I love it. And since I'm such a lightweight, I only can drink I have a 2-drink maximum when it comes to alcohol.
Okay. No zombies?
That's me.
Yeah. Well, I can have a 1 zombie, but that'll be it. But yeah.
1 zombie or 2 of anything else.
I've done like the math, and I think it's going to take me about 5 years to become a water bearer. The number of times I'm able to get to 4. Now with COVID, I'm like, well, extend that by God knows how long. But yeah, it's taking a while. Denise, though, is a fire bearer. She's drank all the rums there. Well, not all, but she's drunk like 50 rums. There's levels, but it's impressive.
So Denise outdrinks you.
Oh God, yeah. I cannot. I'm terrible with alcohol. I mean, I love it.
B-Rex earlier this week, and there's a photo on his Instagram of you and them in the bathroom of Trader Sam's drinking a Kraken bowl. And
that
when
was
we
a
asked
super
him,
fun night.
He said nobody remembers who brought that bowl in. Do you agree? Are you supporting B-Rex in that statement?
I do. Yeah, that was that night. I may have broken my 2-drink maximum.
I got that impression.
I don't know. So this is the thing that gets fuzzy. You can get a Dole Whip with a rum float there, and I don't know if that qualifies as a cocktail. So that also was in play, which may have fuzzed my memory of the evening.
There you go. But
that Denise was a lot of fun.
Is the strong drinker. So if anyone could get to the bottom of this question, it's her.
But she refuses to be on camera, so we'll never know.
I'll fly out there sometime.
Yeah.
You won't know it's coming. You'll just get a knock on the door, and I'll be like, I'm here for answers.
We need the truth. Yeah.
When you were doing your fountain, you used textures.
And the texture
you said it was from your driveway in Hawaii?
Yeah. So I'll show you my super texture tools that I love to death. Let's open up the drawer. See,
I was going to ask if you had like a whole collection of them.
So this is just the one that I have. So this is 6 inches of my driveway in Hawaii. It was probably made in 1949, and it was just beat to hell asphalt. So I just used, silicone caulk from Home Depot, and you just put it on there. Be sure to put Vaseline down on it first, like a light coating or something. You need some sort of release, or you can use like dish soap. You need some sort of release, or else you're going to have a big patch stuck to your driveway. So there's this, and then my other favorite texture tools are this magical rock.
Ooh.
Isn't it beautiful? So it's just a lava rock. This was in my backyard. This is an actual lava rock from the lava in my backyard in Hawaii. And it's just so great. It has so many different facets on it. I love this one. Yep. And then my other super texture go-to tool is this. I have a couple. Oh, geez. It's hard to look in the camera and do this. I don't know if you can see this. So this is the seed from a blue marble tree. And doesn't it look cool?
But I don't even know what a blue marble tree is.
So a blue marble tree is this. So here's a couple of them. Okay, there we go. A blue marble tree is this really neat, giant tropical hardwood tree. They grow in like Indonesia and all throughout Asia. And the seeds they call them blue marbles because they're this absolutely iridescent blue. I mean, and it's weird because you'll be in the jungle where they grow, and so everything is just lush green, and you'll see this, it looks almost like ultraviolet blue. It is so intense, and it's just a perfect marble shape. There'll be like 600 of them on the ground. And so you pick those up and then you peel them off or let them dry out. And that's what's inside, is this super rock hard, it's like a peach pit, but really textured. It looks like a brain.
Yeah.
And I know that in Buddhism, they're called like Buddha's brains or something like that. And people will make like not necessarily a rosary, but a kind of an equivalent with them. They're usually strung up in beads, and they are absolutely gorgeous. You can polish them. So I have about 400 of them, which I collected before I left Hawaii because they're so cool, and I wanted to make a necklace of them. It's on the to-do list. But the neat thing about it for ceramics is you just roll it around on whatever you're sculpting, and it imparts an incredibly cool texture. I used it to do almost all of my stone tiki mugs, like this incredibly dusty TikiCon mug. This texture right here.
Oh, okay.
Is done with the blue marble seed. You just roll it over the
just
clay.
roll it on.
Yeah, it's incredible. And the neat thing about it is you can use it after the casting too. Like when so I did that on my master sculpture, right? But then like after you cast, you take the thing out and you have to seam it. So you kind of scratch some texture away.
Yep.
Take that blue marble right back and you roll it over the seam line disappears. Yeah.
It's gonna be cool if it's spherical too, because then you don't have to worry about like the pattern being too repetitive.
Exactly, yeah. It's they're really neat. And I know you can get them, I think you can get them on Etsy. People will sell them because they're very common, like I said, for making necklaces and beads like that. They're really cool. I've got a big sack, but I'm not selling any of mine. I was so worried that I'd get hit or like zinged by customs that when I was leaving Hawaii, because it's a tropical seed, and you have to declare all of that stuff. So I broke my stash in half, and I put half of it in our moving container, and half of it I took on the plane, just in case either one got zapped. But nobody cared.
You got it through.
Yeah, I always overthink these things. Man. Yeah.
There was a photo I saw on your Instagram. Speaking of things that you leave behind, and also it's 13 Nights of Tiki Frights, right?
Oh yeah.
There's a photo.
I wore the shirt.
Dressed up as a Christmas Carol character.
Oh yeah, my Jacob Marley costume. Yeah.
What happened to it?
I threw it away.
Oh.
I know. Well, I used that for like 5 years. That was like my go-to costume. I built that one. I love that costume. It was super cool. The sadness is when you leave Hawaii, you have to pay by weight for everything. And so we had a big stack in our front yard. We like boxed up everything. All right, this is the stuff we're taking. And then the movers came and gave us the estimate. We're like, we're taking half of this stuff. So sadly, Jacob Marley went away. But
go.
Yeah, but I do want to rebuild it. Since moving here, a friend of ours throws this absolutely insane Halloween party in Portland. Katrina, if you're listening, it's the best party ever. So we went last year, and I have never been to an adult like Halloween party in my life. I felt so like, ooh, I'm all grown up. Last year I grew a beard. I've never grown a beard before. But I went, so Denise and I, it was Denise's idea. We went to Zod and Ursa from Superman 2, the villains that Superman fights. So I grew a beard from it. She made the costumes. They were unbelievable. I wish I could show you a picture, but it's on my phone, which I'm talking to right now. So that party was so rad that I'm like, all right, I'm going to build something better than Jacob Marley for this year. And then, of course, the party
better than Jacob Marley.
Yeah. I was like, I'm going all in. I'm going to build this giant elaborate costume, but COVID happened. But anyway, next year I'm going to completely go bonkers on this for this Halloween party. I'm very excited about it.
That means it's got to be even better because you've had 2 years now.
But I've also learned a lot. Like that Jacob Marley costume weighed a ton. But the stuff that I used to make the Fireball Island game that I'm working on, that thing. That's like this really light epoxy foam. That stuff is unbelievable. Like I could make like an articulated mouth mask out of it. I got plans.
He's got plans. You won't change.
And I have a whole year to think about it. Yeah. So
you've worn a lot of costumes over the years.
I have.
A quick scroll through your Instagram because you were in special effects before, right?
Yes, I was.
And you posted a bear today.
I did, the bear.
You also have a story that I'm kind of interested about where you dressed up as like a Roman
Oh yeah, yeah.
And you
Yeah,
passed
the
out?
Romans brought. Well, I passed out in all the costumes. This ties into my 2-drink maximum rule. Is Henrik passes out a lot, so I tend to pass out. It's funny when I worked in LA. I just kind of stumbled into wearing the costumes because I was one of the only thinner guys in. I was lucky. I was 6 feet tall and relatively thin, so they put me in the costumes. And it was great. And also I was willing to work for peanuts at the start. It was super cool. I mean, I was hired on a film called, which is a terrible movie, don't go watch it, Lord of Illusions, a Clive Barker film. That was my first job ever in Hollywood. I was a PA on that, unpaid PA, that's production assistant. And on that movie, K&B, the company that I worked for years, hired me. And then I got to go back on the same movie before the movie even wrapped as a puppeteer for K&B. I was like, oh my God, it was magical. But I wore a lot of suits for them. And I often would pass out on them. You have to understand these suits are difficult to wear. So, you're usually like looking out of a tiny little eye hole and breathing out of a little hole. And you wear this big thing and you can't go to the bathroom. And it's very hot usually. So the one that I passed out in on the movie where I was the Roman gladiator, which is the Wishmaster, I have to think about it. That one I passed out in because it was fun. We shot for like a day and it was fun. I got to kill my boss, Howard Berger, he's the B of K&B. He played a security guard in the museum where I was the statue that came to life. So I got shot, which is always fun getting shot in movies. They shoot you. And so for that one, I was shot with things called, I think they call them Zerks. Basically, it's a paintball gun that they shoot you with, and the paintball gun shoots a little special ball filled with a chemical. You know those little poppets that you throw and they pop?
Yep.
Like those little. So that's basically, it's like a giant poppet, and it sparks. It sparks when it hits. So when you're watching a movie and you see like a shot of a car go by and like spark, spark, spark hits it, they're shooting with a paintball gun that has these little popping things in them. So I was wearing the suit and I had the shield and everything. So they shot me with that, which was really fun. I'm like, oh, it just was cool. It was very cool. So I got to kill him in that, stab him and stuff like that. But then the next day, the museum in this script catches on fire. So all of a sudden they had all these flame bars around, which is it's like a bar with all these holes in it connected to propane, and they set it all on fire. So it's basically sitting inside of an oven. Yeah. And it got really hot. And I remember just sitting there, and yeah, I'm a statue. So for like take after take, I'm not supposed to move. So I'm just standing there like, and I remember just like, thinking like, I feel funny. I feel weird. And then I had a dream that I was like wearing a life preserver and someone was trying to take the life preserver off. And I was like, what's going on? I just heard this water rushing sound. And then I realized that I had passed out and someone was trying to yank the mask off that I was wearing. So, but it was Howard. He's like, oh, it's Henrik. He's fine. He does this all the time. And I was okay. I had some water and it was okay.
That's so good.
Yeah.
Not to change the subject, but you have these cool things. They're not tiki mugs, but they're kind of in the same vicinity.
Yeah.
These bad boys. You got the jungle bird out, and you also have the
pearl diver. You have them both. Yay!
These are so sick.
Thank you. Thank you.
You can be the pearl diver.
Oh, thank you for getting them. About? So that's it. I can show you a teaser of the next one too. So those are, I'm super proud of those things. They've been really fun to make. We got a laser cutter for the studio because I'm a nerd and I love tools, and we needed it for we thought it'd be good for ceramics production, believe it or not. We could use it to build armatures. I just thought it might be a tool that we could use for that. And then I remember, so we bought it last year, towards the end of last year, right before we went back to Hawaii. Denise works for the Honolulu Marathon. So every year they fly her back to work for the marathon, which is great because I just hide in her luggage and I get to go to Hawaii for a week. So I was there and I was like, okay, my job while I'm here while Denise is working for a week is I've got to think of something neat to do with this laser cutter that no one else has done. I'm like, I want to try to think of something cool. And so that's what I came up with. I thought it'd be neat. I want to do some wall art because I think everyone has a lot of, I make mugs and our shelves are full. We don't, I think everyone has enough. So I was like, let's make something we can hang. I love, my favorite drink names are names that I think are short stories in themselves. My favorite cocktail name is the Missionary's Downfall. I think it's such a neat name. It is a short story. That's all. It's just 2 words, short story, done. the end. It's just, I think it's super neat. So I thought it would be neat to try to tell a story, use those really evocative cocktail names, and then like show a snippet of that story that name tells with these, you know, the library of libations. So
does
that's
that
what we're
mean
doing.
down the road, sometime in the future, we might get a missionary soundfall?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Is
so
that
I
in the works?
have a lot of them sketched out. I think I've got at least 15 that I really, of like classic cocktail names that I really love, that I think are very evocative visually, that I want to do. And it's funny, people always message me like, oh, do a Mai Tai. I'm like, I don't know what, like,
What's the story of Mai Tai?
doesn't really tell me a story. Yeah, so there will not be a Mai Tai. I'm just going to put that on the record right now. But there will be other cool ones. And I can
The
grab
tricky thing, I would think, is because the name is one aspect, but then you also have like the shape of the glass.
So
and
that
some
was
of those might not have very interesting.
Yeah. So we're doing a new one. Hang on, I'll go grab a piece. Hang on.
Ooh.
Hopefully I don't disconnect. It's top secret, so I can't show you. Okay. All right. Am I still with you?
The suspense, the anticipation.
Okay. Dun, dun. Dun, dun, dun,
Ah!
dun.
No, Vantiki!
So this gives you an idea of what is coming next. So yeah, that's your teaser for the next mug. But this one is the zombie, and it's in the hurricane glass, which is a new shape for us, which I'm super excited about. So we're doing, I want all the glasses to be to scale to the actual glass. So the Jungle Bird was in a kind of a classic Mai Tai kind of, you know, tumbler. Yep. Then the Pearl Diver, of course, has that super unique Pearl Diver only glass. So this is our first, you know, hurricane, which is neat. It's like doing a, you know, kind of a portrait mode photo. And it was a challenge.
I have a problem now because, so I have the first two, but I need to pick a wall on where to hang them. And if I don't know how many there are going to be.
Oh, right. Yeah. I don't know. Well, I can tell you that we were all super gung-ho about this, and we're like, all right, like, how many do we make? We're like, all right, let's just set the edition size at 200, but we won't have to make that many. Maybe we won't make that many, but that'll be capping. Like, and we'll just make it, you know, we'll see if there's any interest. And then everyone loved the Jungle Bird. Like, it was very popular. It's like, all right. So we went to order more plastic for it, and we discovered that the key color, which is called kiwi, it's a green, it was discontinued. And so we basically had all the plastic that was left. We're like, oh. So we could only make, I think we only made like 45 of them. Like, it was a very, very small, and we were super depressed. We're like, well, nuts, what do we do now? Because it took a lot of work to design that and figure it all out. And we're like, man. So then when we planned out the Pearl Diver, Denise, who is the brains of the outfit, she did all the math and like did all the logistics to make sure, all right, if we were going to do this edition, like we pieced all the, like we could plot it all the cuts, like we need this exactly this many sheets of this color. So she sourced it all, made sure it existed before we committed. But then just last month, she found like some acrylic warehouse somewhere in the US that had enough sheets of that discontinued color for us to finish the edition.
So it is the exact same color. It's not a different.
It's the exact same one that someone just had as like new old stock. Yeah. So we were super, super happy to be able to finish it.
How did you, so this is a question. So most of the sheets are just one solid color, right?
Yes.
But the bird on the front,
the press
is multicolored. How did you do the bird?
So you can, because I'm a nerd, I was like, I wanted to try that. So that, like in the laser world, they call that press fit, where, so you have to compensate for the curve, like the diameter of the laser beam. And so like, if I want to make a hole, like a plug that will fit in this hole, I can't cut a 1 centimeter hole in a 1 centimeter circle. They won't fit. Like they'll be loose in there because the laser dissolves a certain amount of plastic on either side of its path. So you have to cut a 1 centimeter circle, and then you have to cut like a 1.0001 centimeter plug to go in it, a slightly bigger plug. It's math. It's not what I'm good at, but
Was
but
it?
yeah,
Did you just print out like 600 beaks? You're like, one of these is gonna work.
That's a good question. No, because I printed out I made a little crossbones. It's a tiny little crossbones art piece that I had. I actually had it left over from another illustration I did. And so what I did is I cut out that crossbones shape on 10 different little test pieces. And then I cut a crossbone, increasing the thickness, the additional offset by, I can't remember, I think 1/10 of a millimeter each time. And then I just did a bunch of tests to see which one fit best. And then I got the number that I needed. And and it's different for every laser. We're actually looking at buying a different laser now. We're excited. It'll be like a big new studio tool. So I'm gonna have to recalculate all that stuff, but that's okay. That's it's fun though. I like doing that stuff, experimenting.
Yeah.
Science.
Will we get an official reveal of the zombie by Halloween, or is that not?
Yeah, the goal is, so I have it. I'm super stoked at the design. We worked, I will admit, I felt a ton of pressure. I mean, it's the zombie. Everyone's like, I love zombies. I'm like, it's got to be good. And so I had been working on the design for months, and I kept procrastinating and putting it off. And and Denise like, we need this design. I'm like, no, it's done. So we really worked on it about a week ago and got it finalized. We love it. And then the thing was sourcing the plastics. So we picked a bunch of, I just got a battery warning. I have to plug my phone in. Oh no, it's my ear pods. Oh geez. All right. You got me for 20% more of audio.
Well, it's been nice knowing you, Vantiki.
Yeah. So anyway, so we ordered a bunch of plastic. We're getting some plastics that we're pretty excited about. We know they exist. We know that we have enough of it, but they're not going to arrive until Monday. So we get the plastics next Monday, and then I cut like mad. And so we're a team operation, so we get these huge sheets, and then I cut them down on the table saw, and then Denise is the certified laser technician, and so she does all the super cutting. Yeah.
And you probably just cut them out by you probably have 10 zombie hands.
So she does all of that. It is the term for that. The nerdy term is nesting. So she nests all of the parts, and yeah, it's kind of like Tetris, but with really weird shapes. Yeah. So you want to pack them all in there as absolutely best as you can to get, so you don't waste, because you don't want to waste as much as possible. And then we keep all of the little scraps, because then you never know. We were actually able to cut a lot of parts for this zombie out of scraps from the jungle bird. It actually happens to fit. There's a small zombie part. We're like, oh, we can get a ton of those out of that. So
okay.
Yeah.
Use every last bit, right?
We try, yeah, because it's expensive. It's really expensive.
I can imagine.
I know probably most of the people watching have they're Tiki fans. So I had some Tiki mug questions for you. Since you're the Tiki mug expert, right?
I don't know about that.
One of the questions that a lot of people seem to have a hard time understanding is undercuts.
Oh yeah.
If you're trying to design a Tiki mug and you're just doing a drawing, right? The undercuts is kind of what people don't think about. How would you describe an undercut to the people that don't know?
Man, it's so hard to describe. Undercuts. I guess anytime. Okay, so all right. If you're looking at my finger, so the second you cannot see my fingernail anymore, so it's still okay. It's okay. We're okay. We're good. We're good. We're okay. We're getting really close to as far as you push it. That's an undercut. The moment my finger goes past a 90 degree, I can't pull a mold away from this surface. It has to look like that. Does that make sense? I don't know. It's really hard to describe. And it's something that I think only can be learned by messing it up.
Messing it up?
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of failure in ceramics.
Oh my God,
That's safe to say.
Yeah, ceramics is the cruelest teacher ever. It's pass fail. Yeah, there's no skating by.
Spend 20 hours on a mug, fail.
Yeah. And I am really, I try to err on the side of safety, obviously. So I have done molds on mugs and added an extra piece, even though I didn't think technically it was necessary to add another piece to it, but just to be absolutely safe, because I didn't want it to lock up. Yeah, the Pier Post Bob, I probably could have done that as a 2-piece mold, but I didn't. I split it. I split the face in half, just because I was so worried. I was so worried because I've gone see like everyone says, oh, you make great. I don't. I do think I'm a good mold maker, but I have gone to studios of unbelievable mold makers, and I am constantly impressed by what they're able to pull off as far as, release angles and things like that on their mold. It's incredible. Like if you plan ahead, you can get away with a lot. Yeah. So, but yeah, I don't know how to adequately explain undercuts. I'm sorry.
It's one of those tricky things. If there was someone new who wanted to make tiki mugs, there's low firing and there's high firing.
Right.
What do you have a recommendation as to what is the best for someone just starting out?
That's a good question. So from what I understand, the low fire, that's a good question. So when I started all of this, I went straight to high fire because that is what the school that I was working at fired at. So I just kind of went into that. I prefer high fire also because it's a much stronger clay when it's fired. The piece itself will be stronger. It's a stronger clay body. But back in the day, so when I started it like in 2002, there were no bright colors for what I was firing at. At that temperature, you could only get like medium greens and browns, and you couldn't do any yellows or anything bright. Wouldn't happen. It would burn away. But you could do that at low fire. Low fire, as a rule, has much more vivid colors. You can do a lot more effects at low fire. You may have seen those glazes that look like a birthday cake with all the sprinkles on it, things like that. You can do that at low fire a lot. You can't really get away with that at high fire. Most of those things will burn away at high fire. So yeah, I feel weird. I don't know. I don't know. I just do the high fire because I know that it is more durable for me for shipping and for handling in the studio. I don't have to worry about mugs breaking as much as they do. And I know that they're much less susceptible to thermal shock. Low fire, people will have issues with, even if your glaze shrinks slightly differently than the clay body, it will actually blow up just as your glaze shrinks on your clay. And
yep.
I mean, there's a lot. I'm like, I don't want to get involved in that stuff. So I'm just a high fire guy. I mean, I fire at cone 6, so middle range. Yeah.
Someone just asked, well, there are a couple questions. A, your Grail mug, and then also your most difficult mug. And I have a feeling that your most difficult mug is my Grail mug.
Well, what is your Grail mug?
Well, besides the Legendary Realms from yesterday, the Tentacle.
Oh, yeah. So, you're talking about ones that I've made? Yeah, that was a complete disaster. I've got one I have one in the spray booth. That thing, oh God. I thought I was smart on that. So let's talk about, we could talk about undercuts on that. All right, so here's my, ta-da, I got one here. It's a broken one. But this is the only one I've kept. Well, actually, I have another one in the studio, but yeah, you can see there's a little crack. Where is it? You probably won't even be able to see it. I didn't even notice it until we were going to ship it. But there's a tiny crack. You're never going to see it. I know it's there. But this was a nightmare for sure. So this was just a 2-piece mold. This is a great way to explain undercuts. Okay, so ignore the suction cups. So if you're looking at a shape like this and you have your finger on it, the second I start my finger here, okay, this is okay. The second my fingertip disappears, there, that's an undercut. That means that you can't, if you can't see it from here, that's where the mold line has to be. Yep. So when you make your mold lines, you look at a piece and you'll be like, okay, you just got to draw a line. Like the second the tip of your pen disappears, that's too far. So this is a 2-piece mold. I was able to do this as just 2 pieces, which is great. The downside is we stuck all these stupid suction cups on after, which took an immense amount of time. And also I had to cast each one of these suction cups. It was a disaster. I will never do this ever again. Even though I do think it is a super cool mug, never, ever again will I do that.
You did that's your second tentacle, right?
So I love doing tentacle mugs. I've done these when I was hand building them. I did giant tentacles. I did a set of huge tentacles. I did a giant, one of my favorite tentacles is a tentacle holding a skull. It's a big tentacle. It's like a giant goblet piece. And it's wrapped around one of my trepanning accidents, which is I used to do these hand built skulls with the tops cut off. Halloween. So yeah, I love tentacle mugs. I love the idea of a mug that you have to finish before you can put it down, you know? I think it's kind of a cool idea.
Like your crab
like the crab claws, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's one I would love to redo that one. That's one of my favorite mugs. But like, so Grail mugs that I wish that I had. So when I went to my very first Tiki Oasis, that huge thing that they have in San Diego, we were setting up the booths and I did a quick walk around of the grounds. You know, you do look at all the other vendors, and one guy there, Monk Tiki was not there, but I was a huge Monk Tiki, and I still am a huge Monk Tiki fan. They are the best. They have one of their Fiji mermaids there for sale. Their old school ones, like, you know, like the super cool. Oh God, that thing was so cool. And I remember it was like $110, which to me at the time was insane. Oh, can you still hear me? Okay, we have 10% left.
Oh, wow.
Just have to, and so I was like, and I walked by, I'm like, oh, that's super cool, but oh, that's a lot of money. I don't know. Like, let me go back and talk to Denise about it. So I went back to my booth and I'm like, there's this really, she's like, just go buy it. So I'm like, okay. So I went, and it was already sold. Yeah. And I have never in my life seen another one for sale, even remotely close to that price. Usually now 5 or 10 times that cost. So yeah, it killed me. But I love that mug to death. It's such a cool
if anyone's
mug.
watching and they have that mug, you know, you have leverage.
Yeah, I could trade.
You get a custom one off.
Yeah, always willing to trade for the Fiji mermaid original. Yeah.
So obviously you do more of the slip casting.
Yeah.
I think there was kind of like would you say there was a negative stigma regarding slip casting for a while?
Well, it's interesting. Like, it's such a weird, I feel like I'm in this weird, like I'm straddling these two worlds. There's the ceramics world and then there's the Tiki world. So I started doing hand-built mugs only because I didn't know how to do slip casting at all. So I was I made all my Tiki mugs by hand for a long time. And at that time I was a member of the Hawaii Potters Guild. And I was always kind of this weird outsider guy. Like, I mean, they all liked what I did. I was teaching classes there and stuff like that. But it was like, you know, we are ceramicists, we are potters, you do your thing over there. And not in a disrespectful way, it's just that's a weird little thing you're doing over there. And so, and then it's interesting with slip casting, I don't know, as far as like, I mean, there's people that throw on the wheel and, you know, the wheelies, as I like to call them. I think actually ceramics has become very inclusive. I think everyone is really into what everyone else is doing. I actually think social media has helped that in a big way. On Instagram, like you can see other ceramicists doing what they're doing. And you see like, that is just as much hard work as what I'm doing. Like I think that slip casts work for a long time. Maybe had the idea of like, that's the easy way out. That's kind of like, it's not like I'm hitting, you know, print on a printer and they're just, you know, coming out. And I think that people realize that. Yeah, I know, right? And I think people started to understand that when they would look at social media. And I think that it's really helped. Like, and I look at what people do on the wheel and sure, they can throw incredibly fast. I'm like, that's unbelievable. But then all of the work that happens after that stage and also the loss rate of wheel thrown work is just like, So I don't think, I would say that social media has definitely helped erase any stigmas, if you will, about different ways of doing things. Yeah.
I think people just generally have a better understanding of how much work goes into slip casting and Tiki mugs. Yeah. Although probably the question that we get asked the most, and we get asked on the Search for Tiki from all these other people inquiring about the artists, like we didn't make the mugs ourselves, but they're still asking us the questions, and that is, they're sold out in 2 minutes. Why didn't you make 300 more?
Because I'm only human. Yeah. So it's a good question. And people do, I will inevitably get people ask me that question too. Something that I don't think people understand is the longevity, the life cycle of a mold. So if you make a plaster mold, for me, and it really depends on the design that you're casting, but I feel you will only get, for me at maximum, 20 castings out of that mold before you have to throw that mold away. So before you even get to you have to cast molds and then you make castings out of those molds, but there's just a huge amount of time just to make that mold. So you pour the plaster, you cast it, it's got to sit there and dry for 2 weeks, and then you can only use it 20 times and then it's trash. Which it's not like it's bad trash, it's just made of gypsum, it's a mineral, it's okay. But So when I do a run, say I'm going to do 200 mugs, I've got to say, all right, we're going to cast 10 molds, and that's going to mean I can get 20 pulls out of each of those 10 molds, and that's going to be my 200. If I want to go further than that, I've got to go through another 2-week plus cycle, a week of casting molds, and then another 2 weeks of waiting. And so it adds a huge time and materials stage step up to it. And for me, it's the time. I don't want to spend months and months and months on one mug. I just would go crazy. So that's kind of, and 200, like, it's a lot for us. The volcanic vapors ones that we're doing right now, which are all over the studio, are we're doing a 250 edition on that, but I'm breaking it up. So I'm doing the first 200, which is the molds that I had.
Yep.
And then we're stopping and we're taking a break and we're resetting the studio. And then in January, I'm going to cast another 20 molds, and I'm going to cast the final 50 out of those. Yeah, and they'll be fresh molds because there's no way I could pull that many without degradation affecting the castings. So that's the thing that I just don't think people understand that. I think that they're like, oh, once you get the mold, you're good to go. But that mold is a consumable. So yeah.
It's a ticking time bomb.
Oh, someone wants a sneak peek at the new zombie diorama. Did you miss the?
Go back, rewind.
No, I got it.
Oh,
there it is.
Ooh. That's
all I'm allowed to show. Denise was very specific that I was not supposed to show any secrets.
Denise strikes again. I have a personal question.
Yeah.
Because I live in New England, it gets kind of cold here, and I was curious. Ceramics in the cold is fine. Yeah. And B, something like you're doing where it's a fountain outside. Do you have to worry about it?
Yeah. Yes, and I don't know. So I've done a bunch of reading about that, and it is an issue. Freezing, so clay will absorb moisture, and then it freezes, and then it expands when it's frozen. So it can be an issue. I've read a lot. God, of course, I'm completely blanking on the name of it because I had a cocktail before this interview. But there is a super famous, is it Archie Bray? It's kind of a ceramics enclave school place where people go in the Midwest and they study ceramics, and you'll do residencies there. It's an incredible facility. And they have a lot of outdoor work, and people will put, like people usually have failure gardens. When something doesn't work in the kiln, you just throw it outside. And so there's these walkways lined with all these failed ceramics. And somebody did a study. They noticed that all those ceramics were slowly turning to dust. And this place, I think, it's in the upper Midwest where it gets really cold. Yeah. And they realized it was the freeze-thaw cycles were just slowly breaking down almost on a molecular level, the clay. And was just completely breaking down. So I'm suddenly like, well, I can't put my fountain outside. I mean, my God, it's my baby. So I did specifically buy a clay body that has a super low absorption rate. This clay body was designed to go outside. It should be okay. And also, it rarely gets that cold here in Oregon. Of course, I'm saying that, and on Sunday, it's going to get to be 22 degrees, which is weird, and it's a total fluke, but I'm like, well, crap. I don't know what I'm going to, I talked to when I went to pick up the pump, I bought the pump and stuff like that. If you want to talk about stress, next Tiki Technical Tuesday, I have to drill a hole in the top of the fountain. If it survives all the firings, I get the finale is drilling a hole in it, which I will blow it up.
I don't know if I can take it.
I need it new eye. I'm like, good Lord, it's going to be horrible. But I'm like, so I asked the fountain people, I'm like, do you bring your fountains inside? And he's like, as long as it keeps running, it's fine. You won't have to bring it inside. So we'll see. I mean, honestly, it was fun to build. I've got the foam form over there. I can make another one. I know how I would make it better next time. I'm like, oh, I wish I could do this again because I could make a totally cooler one now. So if it dies, I can do it again. I mean, I've filmed the whole process, but I'd do another one.
That's so good. I am afraid. I think Instagram's going to cut us off.
Oh, okay. Well, it was super cool talking to you guys.
It was fantastic talking to you as well. We always love talking to you, Vantiki. And I think it's safe to say, even if you stop making mugs today, the impact you have had on all of the new people in Tiki.
Oh, geez.
I'm serious. Everyone we talk to who's new in Tiki speaks so highly of you and has learned so much from you. So
well, that's cool. Well, there's so many talented artists. It's awesome to see. It's amazing to see what people make mug-wise. Every time I think like, are we going to run out of ideas for mugs? I'm blown away by what people do. So it's very inspiring. I love seeing what everyone does.
Well, we are always excited to see your Tiki Technical Tuesday videos.
Oh, cool.
Even
Thanks.
if it gives us mild heart attacks.
Well, hopefully the next one's a happy one.
I'm going to pull up the winner.
So what we're going to do is quickly
Oh, yeah.
announce the winner.
Hopefully before we get cut off here.
I think you started it after.
Okay, so we have, it's your chance is 1 in 649.
I can't believe there's been consistent number of entries every day. I would be like so exhausted always entering, and then we're not even halfway through. So.
Okay, it is another name that I do not know how to pronounce. So I apologize to whoever the winner is, because we're not going to get your name correct.
No, I will.
You want to do the honors?
Okay, yeah. I think I got it. I think I'm pretty confident. Okay, so the winner is Scott Beninati. Congratulations, Scott.
Congratulations, Scott. We hold off about 24 hours to contact you because we want you to have a chance to watch it live. But again, thank you so much, Vantiki, for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you.
And hopefully we get to do this again.
Yeah, that'll be awesome. Anytime.
Thank you. Everyone have a
Happy
good night.
Halloween.